If you're struggling with drawing hips for your character, then here's everything you need to know about drawing them. So first we have proportions and landmarks. And we can see here that hips, the pelvis, takes about 1/3 of the torso. So we see that the upper torso takes about 2/3 and the hips takes 1/3. But also female hips are the same width as the width of the shoulders. Now for male characters, the hips are usually much smaller, so they have wider shoulders and thinner hips. But also a good rule to not make your hips too small is to be able to fit at least one head sideways. So you see here, basically take this and rotate it here and put it here. Boom. But basically hips are dividing the body into halves, not always halves, but usually into two parts. So we have the upper body and the lower body. And here basically you can see that the lower body is much higher than the upper body. Now when we go back here, we can see that this and that is pretty much the same as the upper body. And obviously depends on what proportion you want to use. Maybe your whole body is like 7 or 8 heads, and then you can basically put like 3.5. And basically you can put 3.5 for upper and like 4.5 for lower. Obviously here would be more like 4. But also it's useful to actually remember that the widest part of the hips is around pubic level. Now for the landmarks I use is basically this pubic level here and basically this. Here, basically like that, boom, boom, points here. This will show me the rotation of the body, but I also use belly button for the hips, okay, and the middle of the torso. And also all these notes are available on our Patreon, so you can check it out, link below. But now let's go to the actually gestures that I use while drawing hips. So basically I always start with a main line of action for the whole body, and then I just add a horizontal line for the hips. Also remember that the pelvis is naturally tilted like that, something like that. Maybe not that much, though for females it would be, because they're trying to balance the load here. It's also super useful to use T-lines to show overlap in the body. So for example here you can see that there's one T-line, and T-lines basically are lines that make a T-line, not T. Basically it shows that one object is behind the other or in front of the other. So basically we have two spheres, let's say this, and this one is behind it, okay? This one is behind. Basically it creates this T-line, T-line here. One T-line, other T-line, boom, and shows the depth. Basically if we go back here and do this, boom, boom, and now take the color and make this T-line here, we can now see that this one is in front. So the same with the body, we can see that here's one T-line, boom, so this part here is in front of this, boom. But obviously you can show twists of the body, so for example here, boom, boom, like this goes here, and basically you can see more of it like that, say something like that, boom, boom. So with this T-line here you can see that the body is tilting like that, boom. There would be something like that, boom, and there's the back. For example you can also see T-lines obviously here, boom, boom, the rib cage, boom, another T-line here, obviously the shoulders here, boom, boom, also like bicep is in front of this here, the collarbone and neck. Use T-lines, they are super useful. They show the overlap, which is super important when you want to actually add some depth and perspective to your drawing. And also to make your actually poses and hips more dynamic, you can use a simple contrapposto. And what it is, it's basically you want to make a shoulder line and a hip line. And you want these to go in opposite direction. Okay, boom, boom. This goes here, this goes here, and creates contrapposto. So the angles are opposite to each other. Boom, boom. Okay, even here. Okay, boom, boom. They're not parallel to each other. Okay, even here, boom, and boom. They're not like something like that. Boom, boom. It's more static. It's more, stiff. So now for the shapes of the hips. And basically there's a couple of things that you can use. You can use a basic cylinder for the hips. Boom. You can use a simple box for the hips, and you can use an oval, or like an oval with some form, a more cylinder but oval cutoff. And what I actually use is I use something like a cylinder, okay, boom, with a triangle. But basically there would be a triangle like that, but basically you have this cutout here, something like that, and obviously from the other side also. But I don't use like 100% of this shape. What I do is I keep that in mind. So basically I draw a horizontal line, an oval, and then I'll add a simple triangle here, okay? And then I just draw the rest of the hips. But also it's super important to add a center line, okay? So you know which direction it is facing. Maybe one here, boom, boom, one here, here. Maybe it's like a front, boom. Maybe it's something like that. Boom. And also you can put this same here. So also what I like to add when I'm drawing hips is basic legs, okay? A little bit of legs, a little bit of upper torso and waist, and belly button, and obviously abs. But you don't need, you can just draw this shape here, boom, boom. And you can also show hips like that. You can see that even with only this, you can still tell that these are kind of hips. So now for drawing hips, okay, so first we want to actually make the gesture line and one horizontal line for the hips. Now we'll put the basic oval here, okay, maybe like that, boom, and a triangle on the bottom, boom, something like that here. This goes like here, okay, and maybe this more curved so it's not like straight. Okay, now we can make a new layer and the previous one decrease opacity a little bit, and we'll be drawing on top. Okay, so now I want to refine a little bit, and I actually like to put these bumps here. These are basically for the bones of the hips. Make it maybe a little bit softer like that, boom, boom. It would be our top. We won't be focusing on drawing the upper body. That would be the belly button, then a little bit of abs. We can also put this here. Now for the other side, we want to also make those two bumps go like that. Obviously be a little bit on the same level. Make it also softer to not make it as hard. And see here, it's basically a triangle. Now we can actually draw abs a little bit, the lower abs, and with this line here we can connect this like that, boom, and this basically make follow through like that. So now we want to make a room for our legs. So basically we can erase this a little bit, because basically this would go like there, and this is overlapping, something like that. Okay, also here, boom, boom, there would be a little bit of butt, and here simple cylinders for our legs, boom. Obviously here would be also a sartorius muscle, goes like that. Also like those contours that goes around the form is also useful for showing the perspective. You see here, you can see the bottom of it, so basically it's like a cut off leg. If you see bottom, you're looking from below. Actually we can make it a little bit on the same line, push this a little bit up. Obviously this goes out, then slowly does something like that, boom, like a transition, basically a C, another C, another C, boom, boom. And now let's go and actually refine it. And also if we're looking from the bottom, we want to also look here from the bottom, so it would be something like that. Erase this, or make something like that, boom. Also decrease the opacity of this. So now we can go and refine it. So make these curves flow better, something like that, boom, okay. Okay, boom, boom. Obviously remember to add overlaps. So basically you don't have to add no sartorius muscle, boom. This would go like that. Basically you want to put like more details and make it pretty, but yeah, basically that's how I draw the hips and basically lower legs, boom, boom. These are basically cylinders. This goes a little bit like that. We can also flip the canvas to see if we have any mistakes, and it's looking all right. Though the legs, they would go a little bit like overlap here, or maybe something like that. Boom, erase this, boom, boom, like that. And also make this one a little bit wider, so something maybe like that. So this is basically how I draw basic hips. I always start with a gesture, then horizontal line, a basic oval for it, triangle, and then I just add some details of anatomy. And if you want to watch how to draw a whole body, then you can check out this video. Bye.